Hi, welcome to Promo Insiders, an ASI media podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm Chris Ruvo for ASI, and today I'll be speaking with my colleague, executive editor Theresa Hegel, about a topic that's of key importance to industry companies and their growing sustainability efforts. I'm talking about greenwashing and greenhushing. Theresa is the perfect pro to talk on the subject. She spearheads ASI Media's sustainability-related coverage through our Promo for the Planet site, which is asicentral.com/promo for the planet. With it being April and Earth Month and Earth Day coming soon, we felt this would be a good way to kick off our weekly Promo Insiders podcast for the month. So, Theresa, thank you for being with me.
Yeah, no problem. And I guess it's worth mentioning that we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of Promo for the Planet. So that's kind of exciting. I wasn't expecting it to, well, I don't really know what I expected when I started it, but I thought people would be interested. But I was surprised by how interested people are in this coverage and how many new things there are to write about every week. And we should
Yeah,
add that we do update that site every week. There's always at least 3 new stories up there.
yeah, it's an impressive breadth of coverage. So I was going to say, and as you just noted, there's always updates there on what's a really important and an issue of even growing greater importance for the industry. So today's particular topic, you wrote an article on this, and I was very interested in it, and I kind of wanted to do a little deeper dive. So let's maybe set the table here a little bit. Just what is greenwashing? What is green hushing for people who don't know those two
Sure,
things?
sure. And I feel like more people probably know about greenwashing at this point because it's become like a pretty common term. And
Mhm.
I was surprised to find out that greenwashing is a term that's been around since the 1980s.
Wow.
I had never heard it until a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
But greenwashing is basically when companies make exaggerated or false claims about their sustainability efforts kind of as a way to market them better. It could be anything like, putting like leaves in their logos, or having a picture of like a pristine forest. Or it could even just be like, saying like, oh, by 2030 we'll be, completely climate neutral, or we won't use
Mhm.
any plastic anymore, but they don't have any kind of roadmap to show how they're getting there.
So it's basically it's kind of trying to leverage the goodwill or perception of goodwill that comes with being associated with sustainability, but not really taking steps to do those things.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And so green hushing is almost like a backlash to that kind of effort because so many brands have been kind of dinged for greenwashing. I think people
Mhm.
are a little bit more leery of like, even if they have a sustainability program, they're less likely to want to, um, shout to the rooftops about it. I
Okay.
mean, certainly there's plenty of brands that are still publishing this, but there is like
Mhm.
somewhat of a movement to sort of stay a little bit more quiet about what you're doing and not really publish it, or to say things like, oh yeah, we have a sustainability,
Mhm.
initiative, but they won't make it transparent, or they won't talk about what that actually means. So they're very like, in a way they can be kind of similar to each other, but the
Okay.
green hushing is more like, you're, instead of like shouting it out, you're kind of keeping quiet about it and being vague and not really, um, you know, talking about your sustainability because you're worried about being criticized, or worried about that backlash
Called
if
out
it
for
doesn't
green.
if
So
it
so
doesn't
interesting.
meet the standards of activists or consumers.
All right, we got it. So basically, it's green hushing is, hey, I'm worried I'm going to get called out for maybe, I think I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything in good faith
Yeah,
efforts, but geez, I don't want to get flack for this. So I'm just going to
yeah,
quiet, and
yeah,
that's not a
yeah.
great thing because we should be highlighting these things because it
Right,
may impel
right.
more to do it. So, all right, so good. Hopefully everybody's clear on what those terms are. So the next big thing, of course, is like, all right, they're interesting topics in and of themselves, but why do they matter to promo companies?
Well, I mean, I think we've seen in the last year or so that, more and more promo companies, distributors are, they care about sustainability, and not just because of themselves, but because their clients care. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like a lot of the bigger, like Fortune 500 companies, they need to know, where a product has come from, and, if it's made of recycled content, or if it is recyclable. Like they want that documentation. They want to know what's going on. So it's not enough to just say, oh yeah, this is an eco-friendly product. You have to have something to back it up. Not only because it's, of course, it's the right thing to do, but
Sure.
people, the consumers, the end users, the brands and corporations, especially the bigger ones, they want to know that information.
Okay. All right. Very, very good. Um, so what kind of issues can arise if a company engages in greenwashing? You alluded to a few before, but I don't know if there's specific examples or if there's just general issues that can come up if you're a company that's engaged in greenwashing.
Yeah. I mean, you can like if you look it up, if you Google it, you'll find like a ton of examples. I mean, some people, I guess depending on your perspective, some people would argue that there's not enough cracking down being done, but I feel like it is getting um you are more likely to get to see some flack for it. So for example, a couple of years ago, the FTC fined Kohl's and Walmart, I think like $5.5 million because they were marketing some products as being environmentally friendly. They were saying they were made out of bamboo, but in reality, they were made of rayon derived from bamboo. And the difference is that that process, requires like toxic chemicals and, is releasing, pollutants into the environment. So like people are thinking, oh, bamboo, like, but bamboo can be very environmentally friendly, but that particular process, for the rayon is it's not. The way they were doing it was not environmentally friendly, but all of their marketing made it sound like it was. And so, yeah, the FTC did fine them for that. And I think in like Europe, um, you're seeing more of like actual like regulation and people getting in trouble for it. I know H&M had some issues because they had those sustainability scorecards on their on some of their like conscious collection clothing, and people there was like a big investigation that was done, and they found that this was just like really not like what they were trying to tell people about how this is so good for the environment was just not really, it wasn't real. And even I think there was something a few years ago, it was like an outdoor apparel brand. They had some kind of like jacket that they said was compostable, and they had an image of it, like they implied that it would be, you could just like kind of bury it in the ground or something, but the truth was, or like you could go into a landfill and would compost, but the truth is it has to go to like a um like an industrial facility.
Facility. Okay.
And
Yep.
but the way the commercial made it sound like just like the images they were showing really was misleading. And I think that might have been in Australia, but like a truth in advertising kind of law was like,
Hmm.
no, you can't do that. So there is like some governmental kind of regulation at varying levels depending on where you are. And the US is updating those green guides, which
Hmm.
are all about like how to excuse me, how to market your environmental claims. So that there's that aspect. And of course, the public perception. Like if I think, not everybody is savvy, but I feel like a lot of consumers are getting more savvy to knowing when companies are kind of being misleading or lying
Hmm.
about like the
Hmm.
sustainability claims they're making, especially if you're younger. Um, so it's gonna hurt your brand just because people are like, oh, these guys are just a bunch of liars. They're not really, they're just
Yeah.
like telling us a story that's not true. So I think it can hurt you. It could actually hurt your pocketbook, but it could also hurt your business and your brand.
And that's like the two big fundamental takeaways is yes, you could be fined, you could be called out by the government on this, but also if you're discovered to be disingenuous, it really does hurt your credibility. Like so much in business, especially business in our space, a B2B space where a lot of the products that we're selling or have access to are the same in instances, at least the ones that we could put out to end users. Um, it's part of what distinguishes you is your trustability and your reliability. And if you're
Yeah,
making claims that show you to be dishonest, that's not a good look. So so
yeah.
so great points there. So greenwashing, I think we got a good handle on why that could be problematic, but greenhushing can be too, right? So what are some of the issues kind of surrounding that? Is there examples of greenhushing that you could point to?
Um, so I think with green hushing, it's maybe the examples are a little bit more subtle, but if you're not publishing these things, or if you're not like explicit about what you're doing, if you're doing something and you're not really marketing about it, like I don't want to say what's the point, but like I think that you're like you're missing an opportunity basically. You don't, and I think that the key is that you don't have to be perfect at sustainability. Most people are not expecting that, but they want you to be like real about it. They want you to be transparent about it. So I'm trying to think of an example, and this was not like deliberate green hushing, but I remember doing a story on someone a few years ago. It was like a sock company, and they were talking about how they had always been using 100% like recycled yarn for their socks, but they hadn't advertised it. They hadn't marketed about it for a couple of years, and it's like that's such. I mean, they did start doing it, but for a while they were doing this and just not telling anyone about it. But then you're kind of missing a huge opportunity for people that are looking for that kind of product if you're not sharing that. So I think the harms of it are more in that you are missing a chance to kind of show a good thing that you're doing. So that's the big issue with that. And then just like the kind of overlap with greenwashing and greenhushing is that being very deliberately vague about things. So people don't want to hear just like, oh yeah, we're green, or oh yeah, we have a sustainability initiative. But if I can't go on your website and like find like, last year's report, or, if I'm like a distributor, ask some questions to the supplier about what you're doing and you can't tell me what you're doing, like that's going to hurt you. Like that's not good.
So, with green hushing in particular, then, as you said it very well, it's a missed opportunity, because there's people who may very well be looking for those types of products that you provide and that have a sustainability narrative. But how can they know that if you don't if you don't share that? And then it really is, it's putting you at a competitive disadvantage to other companies who may be doing similar things to you, or who may be doing even less than you do, but they're more aggressive about marketing it. So again, the takeaways or the potential issues if you're green hushing is you're at a competitive disadvantage, essentially. So we've got a good hold now, I think, on what greenwashing and green hushing is and the issues around them. So what strategies can promo companies use to kind of find a healthy middle ground where you're not greenwashing and overstating things, but you're not being quiet about the things that you're doing either? What's some advice you can offer?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've alluded to some of this already, but one of the big ones is just to be transparent, and honest about what you're doing. So if you are, tracking things, like if you have a sustainability issue, release detailed reports, do a press release about it, put it on your website, and just tell people what you're doing. Back up your claims. So that's like if you are using organic like t-shirts, then maybe they need to be GOTS certified. Maybe go through and become a certified B Corp. It takes a lot of work, but like that symbol means something to people. So if they see that you have actually done that, that's going to go toward that trust. They're going to be like, okay, this is a company that's, you know, talking the talk, but also walking the walk. Or whether it's like EcoVadis, like there's a bunch of certifications. Some maybe are better than others, but take the time to actually do those things, and that'll make it, that'll show that you're sincere. Basically, it'll show that you have something like real to back up, so that you're not really greenwashing or green hushing at that point. Another one is just like don't hide your efforts. Like I understand the idea of being a little afraid, like, oh, what if I don't really know all of this, so what if I'm called out for like not being perfect, or we're not like, we're not climate neutral yet, so we shouldn't say anything. I don't think that's the right approach. I think that you should be like, maybe if you're a supplier that has a factory, like invite people in to see what you're doing. Just show the efforts that you're making. And then the other big thing is that, kind of put yourself on like a continuous journey towards success. Sustainability, I say this all the time, and that's what people say to me too, is that it's, this is a journey, it's not a destination. And kind of the goalposts are not to say that they're always moving, but there's always more that can be done, because obviously human industry is going to put a strain on the environment. There's nothing, like we can't like just not do things, right? Like we can't just like give up on business altogether, but we can figure out ways to make it better and better. But there's always going to be some kind of an impact. So what you need to do is kind of be on that like continuous journey, kind of document the steps you're taking. And if you haven't done anything yet, like the first step is just to kind of figure out where you are, like make those benchmarks, figure out how much energy you're using, how much, is going into the trash, like how much are you recycling. you need that starting point so you can see how far you've come. You know what I mean? Like that's one way to like back up your claims and be transparent, is that you are keeping track of what you're doing so that you, and then taking steps to make it better. So nobody's expecting companies to get this right away. It's a journey that's going to take multiple steps, and you start with one thing. Like, you're not going to tackle it all at once to be like, okay, this year we're going to focus on being zero waste, or whatever it is. Like, this year we're going to focus on like recycling 20% more of our trash. Whatever like goal you want to set, like set it and then work toward it, and then tell people whether you made it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, keep people posted on what you're doing.
So many good points there. And one of them that really stuck out for me is just get a baseline of where you stand on certain, for lack of a better term, environmental issues. Okay.
Mhm.
And then kind of see where you might realistically be able to work to, and then establish a plan for getting there. And then at that point, you can start sharing about that plan. Like, for instance, I'm supplier X. I know that my carbon emissions per year in my operations are such and such number. In a decade's time, I want to reduce that by X amount
Mhm.
percent. I now can work with experts to put a plan in place for doing that, and then I can tell people I've put this plan into place. And then as I work it over the years, I can update people on the progress that I'm making on that plan. Is that I know that's just one example, but is that kind of what you're
Yeah.
talking about? Like, have an idea where you
Yeah,
are,
yeah. I
work
mean,
toward it, and then
I
promote
think
that you're
that,
working toward it.
yeah. Well, like, think of it like, I'm sure that everybody is looking at their sales numbers and doing this, right? Like, or they should be like, they should be saying like, okay, this is where we are, this is where we want to be, this is how we're going to get there. Just do the same thing with environmentally related topics, like, um, you don't. It's like, you don't have to like reinvent the wheel with this. I think that's like it's a normal business thing to do, to like set these goals and establish metrics and KPIs and all that kind of good stuff. So just take that framework and apply it to sustainability. And the other thing I would say is, you don't have to do it alone. There's like plenty of, I'm not saying you want to like hire like really expensive consultants, but you could go to a consultant firm, like, you know what I mean, like, and there's also people in the industry. Like, we have people on the Promo for the Planet advisory board who have been doing this for years. Like, I think a lot of them would be willing to to talk to you. Like, I'm sure that there's resources in this industry who would be happy to explain how they're getting to their sustainability goals, and to help you. So, like, it's not something that, it's not like a one-man race. You know what I mean? Like, there, you can talk to people, find resources where you can. You don't have to do it on your own.
Great, all great points. And some of this, maybe this last question is not the greatest, but it's because maybe some of it's self-evident. But let's maybe spell it out for people if we haven't enough already. Just what are the advantages, if you will, or the benefits to companies to kind of take the approach you just outlined, where they're not greenwashing, but they're not greenhushing either. How does that ultimately benefit companies?
Well, I think one of the main things that we had already talked about is just that, you're missing an opportunity if you're not sharing, not marketing about what you're doing sustainability wise. Like, they're increasingly, like, people do want to buy from companies that are more green. um we can dispute whether they'll pay more for it or not. But like, on balance, people, they want to be able to say that they're doing good by their purchases. And increasingly, like, the end users that are buying from distributors, especially if they're big companies, they not only want to do it, they kind of, some of them need to do it as part of their corporate responsibility. So it behooves you to be doing this the right way, and talking to people about it. But also, I mean, one thing that I've heard from a lot of companies when they start doing sustainability initiatives is that it actually saves them money. So, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not throwing away as much stuff, or if you're repurposing things and you're not having to buy new things as much, or if you're using less energy, if you put in solar panels, like, you're probably finding some savings that you hadn't even thought about. So I think there's a lot of ways that it can actually help you, and there might be some benefits that you hadn't even expected when you started on that path.
All really great points. So just I'll ask you now. Just we're kind of coming to the end here. Just any final thoughts you have, either on this subject, or anything you want to share with people about Promo for the Planet, upcoming things like that.
Well, we do have some good stories coming up that'll be published, I think, the week of Earth Week or Earth Day later this month. So look forward to those. They were the stories that were in the April issue of Counselor, the spring issue, which was the promo for the Planet issue. So there's a ton of good resources that'll be coming out soon. But the thing I always say to people is that if you have something coming up, if you have a cool new product that's sustainability related, or you're, making some kind of new initiative, like reach out to me so that we can cover it. Like that's part of, we want to be able to share like your good sustainability related news. And by sustainability, that also means like social responsibility. Like if it's something to do with like fair labor or, you know, better factors, whatever it is, like it can be, it's people, planet, and profit. So anything that's related to people and planet, like we want to hear about it. So share that. Let me know about it.
T Hegel at asicentral.com, right?
That's right. Let the emails start rolling in.
All right. All right, Theresa, thank you so much for chatting with me today about greenhushing and greenwashing. I think it was really informative, and it's stuff that folks in our industry should be up on. So thanks so much.
Yep. Thank you.